really need is the president and the Congress to get together for such a law. Because the president is the one that shuts it down by simply not signing.
By signing
It's
or
not Congress.
or
Congress does not have the authority to veto. They're not going to veto with the numbers of Republicans and Democrats in the House right now, or in the Senate right now.
But we have a more
No,
fundamental. We have a
no.
more fundamental problem, in that trying to get 218 in the House and 60 votes in the Senate. We can't even get anything to the president's desk, given where I read the extremes of the parties that have put people way over here, into the left and right, and not talk to each other.
You got a new house. Don't talk it down before you see what's going to happen.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, you couldn't, nothing happened when they were all people.
And this is part of the problem.
Yes, it's a crime bill.
Yep.
Passed the rules change.
Thank you. We got some very good stuff.
The
No,
houses passed bills, and they're not, little, just by the margin. They're quite a few more than that.
and I appreciate that recognition. And what I'm saying on this issue in particular, where I see everybody knows, it's like I said to some folks on the other side, just take yes. Yes is right before you. Let's just do it. Let's just jump, both of us. But that's where we are. But the question you asked was, so they were talking about in the prior town halls, is to just make sure the government stays in operation, and then somehow Congress does its job in the meantime, and it goes from there. The reason why I'm afraid to support that, without knowing the details, is that we have delegated so much authority already to the executive branch and to the autopilot of government spending, and that there is no control mechanism in Congress to have that oversight role. And so we just, fundamentally, Congress needs to do its job. And get to a deal of 218 and 60. And I'm trying to be part of that voice to get there. New voice.
The gentleman behind Gwen has.
Is there any appetite in Congress to separate funding the government from these policy discrepancies where, okay, you don't like, I think the last one was Obamacare, this one is the wall. Can't you figure out some way to keep the government open without disagreeing about this and making the air traffic controllers and the FBI and everybody else work?
Yeah. And the answer, simple answer, is we have the power of the purse. And a lot of these issues that we're talking about, the building, the money that will, this $5.7 billion has to come from Congress. It has to go through that process in order for it to go. So to say.
You don't have to shut the whole government down because Homeland Security isn't getting 5 point.
Well, but the issue is this, if we can't get to 218 on those funding bills, because this battle is out here, because they're part of that funding bill.
Right.
That's why this was a partial shutdown. Maybe the answer to your question, this was a partial shutdown because we actually got 75% of the government, those bills, we got those passed, House, Senate, to the president, signed into law.
Right.
Where the battle was in that Homeland Security bill, those 6 bills that were there that couldn't get to 218 and 60.
Right.
And so because we had that logjam, they shut down.
So if you can't pass this year's funding, give them the same amount of money they had last year. Let them work on that until you figure this out.
And then the issue becomes, okay, where does Congress's role in that then? So we're supposed to review power of the purse each and every year.
There you go.
And so then is that going to go in perpetuity forever? And there's some members of Congress, there's a lot of members of Congress who don't want to be involved with this because it's too politically sensitive. So I can see some members saying, yeah, get this off my desk, and I'll just yell at the president until I'm blue in the face.
Well, it's still in Congress's control.
Where?
You passed the budget last year. We're going to pass the same budget this year to fund until, it's like our school districts. You vote down the school budget.
Different.
You get,
different.
Yeah, but you get a budget in place. Some kind of budget.
Actually, this is a little, okay, so we got 21 days, not to even make it even more depressing here, but, so we got 21 days to get this issue done for the rest of this funding bill for.
How was that 21 days number picked? Why 20, what's the magic number? I
was wondering that too.
I don't know.
Because It's
a number that was picked.
I didn't know if there was a reason.
Yeah, I think they were probably looking at, I bet you some of the political advisors said, don't do it on Valentine's Day, do it on.
Oh, okay,
But where were we? So what you're talking about is the budget. There's a budget deal that needs to be struck here too, ladies and gentlemen. There's also a debt ceiling
Exactly.
that is going to have to be dealt with
Oh
too.
my God.
So if you think, we're having difficulty
Oh,
here,
yeah. Well, it's a-
holy cow, there is a major problem coming down the road. Because if we don't do a budget deal, then that sequestration, which was a law that was designed, I was with Boehner and those guys, where we said, make it as painful as possible so Congress obviously would not let this happen. But as you've seen with this over time, we've actually gone over the cliffs on this stuff, and it hasn't been effective in keeping people together. But that's coming right down the way. 10% across the board cut is coming. And if we don't agree to something, that's gonna be a real problem. And the debt ceiling, now we're back into crazy town. So we need to avoid that. So there is an appetite, just keep this, and this is for the price of coffee on a Saturday afternoon. There is some discussion starting, we've been focusing the problem solvers caucus on an immigration border security deal. There are some conversations, giving me a little bit of hope that we will do that, potentially, of a bigger deal. To put the budget deal, the debt ceiling, plus this border security.
In 3 weeks.
It's amazing. You know what's amazing about this? You know the amazing thing about this? All of this stuff is well vetted. These solutions, these ideas of what is needed, where it needs to go, it's not as if we're just going, oh, well, we haven't thought about that ever before. They have been pretty much well established and are ready to come off the shelf. I don't know if that will get any traction, but there is some discussion in DC about that. Okay. Oh, great question, and then we'll come back.
Bill, I'm gonna go to you. You want to know why we haven't been able to pass, over the last 2 years with President Trump being there, and Republican control, why we haven't been able to pass immigration reform, basically. Is that accurate, Bill?
Yeah, but it's comfortable as a truck. I'm not just talking the wall, I'm talking.
Immigration reform.
Yeah.
Because, well, it's very simple, in one regard. There weren't 60 votes in the Senate. So even though we had Republican majority in the Senate, and we had Republican majority in the House, in the Trump's White House, we didn't have 60 votes in order to
Well, why
get
couldn't
that.
that compromise have happened in the last 2 years?
From your mouth to God's ears.
ears.
Bill, because, and this is why the rule reform, we got credit for the rule reform, the problem solvers caucus doing it. One of the things we're doing with these rule reforms is we're pulling power back to members. And so if you get 290 co-sponsors, if you get an amendment with 20 Democrats and Republicans, we now in the rules, and that's why I supported the rules package, first time in 18 years, Republican supported the other side. You can bring things to the floor and get a guaranteed up or down vote on that proposal. Before that, it was all, you had to go to the Speaker's office, you could have 435 members co-sponsor a bill in the House, and if the Speaker didn't want to come to the floor, or the leader, or the whip, you would not get a vote on it. That's silly to me. It's totally counterintuitive to democracy. And so we have this opportunity. So what some of us are discussing, and this is where we're strategizing as we speak, and we had a conference call yesterday at 3 o'clock. Then the president came out at 2:30 because we're discussing in the problem solvers caucus how to potentially use this to say, how can we get 290 people to co-sponsor a bill? And work around our speaker, work around our leadership to say, you know what, there's a silent voice of majority of members, Democrat and Republican, are willing to jump together.
How do you can't get it through the Senate? Now, some of the representatives went over and looked for the Senate majority leader. Wouldn't that be a good idea for more representatives if this continues to go over there and lobby Mitch McConnell?
Oh, so so we were part of the group, the problem solvers caucus. I went to a bipartisan Senate meeting. It got a little bit of attention, but because we kept it low key, we're not running headlines here. We went over and met with a group of, there was 12 of them and 4 of us, so there's 16 of us in a room.
You need the headlines.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
well,
you might want to generate some headlines
well-
because you have a room full of people who think you don't care.
Right.
Because you're, you know, as Liza pointed out, some of the rhetoric that comes out, and you said you don't support it, make some headlines. Some of the words you've said
So-
today would go a long way if you said them a little more publicly.
Yeah. So if I've gone on national TV, made these statements, I went to the White House, I was there, the Washington Post, and so.
Say that you went over and.
Oh, it was reported on, I mean, I will try to get louder.
Sir, real
But, go ahead. I'm sorry.
sorry, I just don't know either way. You've supported the rules reform. Did you, or are you going to also support HR 1 that includes voting reform and the anti-corruption measures?
Taking a look at it, to be perfectly honest with you, and actually, we're looking at some amendments that we're potentially supporting using that 2020 proposal as we speak. There's a lot of good stuff in there, but there is also some things that still need to be normalized and socialized a little bit to get the 60 votes in the Senate and also to make sure there's no unintended consequences there.
Please express yourself as very bipartisan, so I'm glad we are considering it, and I certainly hope you won't let any fear of kind of a Democratic win on that legislation.
Oh, see, this is where I am so past that.
I'm glad.
Well, and so
Um,
one of the questions is about the rules reforms, which you just mentioned, so somebody wants to explain a little bit further. And actually, it's one of the areas where Tom switched over and voted with the Democrats.
Yeah, so there was 3 of us Republicans that switched over to support the rule reforms, not only because substantively we took this power back to members so that we can maybe get this consensus and get it to the floor and vote on this stuff in the House, but also because we negotiated this over the last year with Nancy Pelosi and folks, and I was one, and you may have heard about it, some of our folks in this room said, hey, I'm not ruling out voting for Nancy Pelosi, I'm withholding my speaker vote for Kevin McCarthy and others. So I had this conversation with our Republican members because I needed I wanted the speaker coming in to support these rule reforms to change the institution for the better. And so when we did that, I said, you know what? And actually Speaker Pelosi didn't want my vote, to be honest with you. She wasn't looking for that at the end of the day. But I said, you know what? You acted in good faith. I'm going to act in good faith. And so that's why me and 2 of my other colleagues on the Republican side, John Pepko and Brian Fitzpatrick, voted for the rules package, first time it was done in 18 years. Because now we have actually now developed a tremendous amount of trust with folks on the other side. Guys like Josh Gottheimer, Tom Suozzi, a bunch of these Democratic people in the Problem Solvers Caucus, but also guys like Jim McGovern, also guys like John Larson, who co-chairs with me on the subcommittee, because we're not just talking the talk, we're actually walking the walk. And that actually came with consequences, that rule vote. There are folks in my party who are looking at me as being treasonous, as being, why are you breaking from the herd? We unite, we stay together, the power is in our unity. I mean, I heard Nancy Pelosi talk about that today.
But you're still back again the Ways and Means Committee, so.
I did.
I mean, they didn't punish you big time.
Well,
Maybe more people need to be.
So I don't talk about the punishment that I've incurred because it's a member-to-member type of thing, and I'm going to keep that between members, but I can assure you, and I'm not going to talk about it publicly because if I did that, it's all for politics. I mean, I get what, and I did it eyes wide open, did it with consequences known, and I'm fine with it. And what we're also trying to do is work around it. And so,
Sir, I do kind of have a question,
Maybe.
touching on that partisan pressure that you might be feeling. I know when you ran against John Plum, you were very eloquent in criticizing his involvement with Hillary Clinton's offer of a reset button to Russia. And you said that this was a foreign power that was a threat to the security of American families, and we needed somebody who would stand up to them very, very strongly. Cut to a couple of years ago, President Trump made highly apologetic remarks about Putin on a national network. You came out publicly and had some apologist remarks about what President Trump had said. And now cut to the present day, we've seen several
what were those comments?
He said that somebody had challenged him that Putin imprisons and arbitrarily kills people, and President Trump said, we don't think the United States kills people. And then in the Wellsville Press, I believe it was, you speculated, I think he really means this, and it kind of tried to reinterpret it and put words in his mouth.
Okay.
Cut to
First of all, maybe I should never do that. I learned that.
cut to the present day. You were on Trump's transition team. We've seen many very high-profile people involved in his circle become indicted for their involvement with Russian agents and influencers. And I'm just wondering.
Indicted for lying and obstructing.
about their activities related
So,
to that. So I'm just wondering, where is this voice that was so strong and so eloquent in criticizing the Democrat, John Plum, about this? You sit with the president in the Situation Room, you pride yourself on bipartisanship. Where is that same spirit of criticism and concern when it comes to the actors in the White House right now?
So I criticized the president on Russia, his warming of Russia. I voted for the sanctions that he wanted us to overturn on the Russian banking operation and other folks, business entities. Russia is no friend of ours. And the point I was making with John Plum was there was this mindset that Hillary Clinton was trying to articulate that we need to reset with Russia, we need to work with Russia, and I was of that mindset. And if you remember, Mitch Romney was mocked at the debate when he said Russia is one of the biggest threats we have. And I agree with that sentiment, and I've expressed that and voted consistent with that. And so make no mistake about this, and we're live feed.
Are you personally concerned about the president's coterie and the involvement?
I am very concerned about this warming of a relationship with Russia. We need to hold Russia accountable. We need to hold Russia accountable for its actions, its aggressiveness. Now, what I did say, maybe this is where you're picking up this, I do recognize that even though they are an adversary, Russia, there are areas in the world where that adversary could be an asset to us to deploy, like Syria, like the Middle East, and other areas where we're united in taking on folks that maybe Russia can help us with, that we are in a different position.
Are you willing to?
Well, but in that world, in that area of the world.
Are you willing to support oversight hearings to investigate how Russia interfered in the 2016 election?
I believe those investigations are legitimate and.
Are you willing to support oversight hearings in the House on how Russia interfered in the 2016 election?
If that's what they so choose to do, they can do that.
Who's they? You're the House.
No, it's controlled by the
I know,
House
but would you
Oversight.
support that? I'm not saying you would be
If
the one to do it.
there's shenanigans that Russia, if you're saying to
Shenanigans?
investigate the shenanigans of Russia into the election, sure, I support that. But I will say also, this is like a Mueller type of investigation, I think is what we're kind of alluding to here. I do believe at some point in time, election or investigations have to come to a conclusion. And also, 2016, we need to move forward as a country, because we got another election coming up in 2020, and if we spend all of our time looking at 2016, rather than respecting and honoring the results of that election and move forward.
Except how can we
wasting a lot of
address
time on
any future issues in 2020 if we haven't had a thorough, and the
That's
thing
fair.
about
If you're
oversight
investigating.
hearings is that they could be public. Mueller, who I think is probably doing an excellent job, his work by its nature is very private. We, I think, need as a nation to have a public conversation about how Russia interfered with the 2016 elections. A series of oversight hearings where we could all learn about, public hearings, public testimony, so that people of America can see what happened in 2016, because how can we advocate for solutions if we don't even really know the extent of the interference?
So if the purpose of the oversight hearing is to investigate potential issues that Russia and other foreign entities did, I don't think we should just limit it to Russia.
I think we could start with
Chinese, Iran influence and things like that. If you're saying to look at what potentially threatened the integrity of the election process, I can support that. But if it's an open-ended, let's look at 2016 election for every issue of Russian potential conflict, I want to make sure we're not.
Although, why wouldn't you want to look at every way Russia could have interfered with our election in 2016? Why would you want to narrow it? I mean, the New York Times today had a thing about charting over 100 different interactions that Trump and people in his administration had, contacts they had with Russia and WikiLeaks prior to the inauguration. I would think we'd want a full investigation publicly of any way that Russia could have possibly impacted the outcome of 2016.
So if we want to, just so we're clear, so what I hear you're saying is the oversight purpose is to just open up the door on 2016 and just look at every nuance of that election and potentially look at Russia and others and entities within Russia, businesses within Russia, and go down that. This can go on forever. I mean, at some point in time, you got to recognize we have an independent investigation looking at the potential conflict with Russian involvement. That should come to its conclusion, show its evidence to the world. Oversight as to the integrity of the election process, legitimate and supportive, but I sense there's more going on here with some of these oversight requests that are bigger and more politically motivated than substantively
But you
motivated.
would support a good faith open investigation into how it affected the voting process in the election.
Especially when you're talking about the integrity of the voting process.
And you're also considering supporting HR one to.
Oh, yeah, we're looking at it.
Let's spread the comments around the.
Yeah, let's move around a little bit.
I have
Oh, great
one,
question.
John Cooley, does that happen to be somebody, that's Mr. Cooley right here?
Hi,
You
Mr. Cooley.
wanna ask your question? Yeah, go.
This is about a local issue, mental health care for children. I think you've been invited to listen to some of the stress that our principal in Dundee has about getting children to care when it's not just anxiety and depression that's being handled in the school well, but when they flip out. And where the nearest place we can go for definitive care is Rochester or Syracuse. And that care is a 10-minute interview after an 8-hour wait, and then go home and do what you can. So we're in the backyard of a federally qualified community health center, Rushville. It's a great institution.
Multiple times.
But when I worked there for a time, I knew that one year we'd be federally qualified by the regulations of how many doctors there were in the area. The next year it would be the other way because somebody had left or come. I think that the federal regulations in that area ought to be looked at again, particularly with the idea of getting qualified mental health care for children. And that's where I'm.
Great input. Thank you so much. Big fan of Rushville and the federally health qualified group.
You were actually my doctor at one point growing up, so I didn't recognize your name until just now, but it's funny.
Wow.
Small world.
Look at how much you protected him.
Yeah.
You bring it up.
He's like, I didn't say anything.
We'll talk later. That is great input. That is exactly the kind of constructive and input we do these town hall for, because you're absolutely right. Getting mental health, access to mental health is something that we just have a shortcoming of going across. So federal health qualified centers, I appreciate that. And if we put it in the statute, then the regulations can't be manipulated, because the regulation, statute says this, regulations can go back and forth with whoever's in the administration, and that can cause chaos in your budgeting and planning. And and there's been, mental health is something where we also should be able to find common ground. But it becomes a very, very slippery slope when you take on that issue, because folks are then get into the question of what is a mental illness, who makes the determination as to what a mental illness is, what do you do in regards to treating that mental illness and addressing
Excuse
it.
me, Tom.
Yeah.
We've got a very patient gentleman.
Okay.
He's been standing there for a long time.
Here you go.
Thank you.
You just earned a vote from Potter. You live in Potter?
I beg your pardon?
Do you live in Potter?
I live in Bridgeport.
Oh.
You and I have had conversations over the years,
Yes.
and I've learned in our conversations, you're not an economist, and when it comes to global warming, you're not a climatologist. The last time we had a conversation was in Addison, and I talked to you about the threat that Russia represented to us, and the development of their hypersonic missile technology, which has been proven over the last couple of months. At the time, you weren't that interested in Russia. You were a lot more interested in North Korea. Much more interested in North Korea, such that you questioned me quite severely about why I was so interested in Russia. Doesn't North Korea provide a threat? So, today, 7 months after our conversation, North Korea's out there, and we're discovering that they have all these missile bases that they didn't tell the caveman that they had. Okay? So, caveman has already,
What is pavement?
Trump, the guy.
Okay. That's
Who's your president?
That's fine, okay. You're the president of the United States.
I'm worried.
Still your president.
I'm worried because Trump has caved to Putin and kowtowed. Everybody knows. People talk about it. Trump loves Kim Jong-un. His buddy has sent some romantic letters. So my question to you as a member of our Congress, an independent branch, what's the bigger threat? Which one of his buddies represents harm to us, Putin or Kim Jong-un?
Okay. So, sir, with all due respect to your language, I will still engage in the conversation with you and how you address the President of the United States. I do believe these are legitimate threats, both, but I am, at this point in time, more concerned about Kim Jong-un. And I still remain more concerned about Kim Jong-un because he has demonstrated a disregard at a level much higher than the Russian threat, as I've seen it. Kim Jong-un is, to me, somebody who is very tempted to do something that other entities, the Russian entities, have restrained that potentially are not at that same level of risk. So I still am greatly concerned and more concerned about Kim Jong-un and his nuclear capability.
Do you have faith that the President of the United States can deal with these threats? When he publicly will not talk anything bad about Putin. I mean, this is on the record. He has said nothing bad about Putin. Macron, the President of Mexico, Venezuela, Canada, all of our friends, and NATO, thumbs down. Putin and Kim Jong-un, they're our enemies. What do you feel about that?
So, obviously,
Can you do anything in the House?
well, this is what I was just going to say. The benefit of our country is that, yes, the president is a huge voice for the country and has primary responsibility for foreign interaction. But he is not the unilateral authority when it comes to sanctions, when it comes to other policies, and that is why I fall back on the Constitution and what we can do in the House and the Senate in order to, as he sends a message to Russia that, as you say, thumbs up, whatever, we send a message from Congress counter to that saying, no, 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 we disagree. And that's where our votes are sending that message also to the world that, maybe there's a disagreement between the two as to how to handle this. But the president, in my humble opinion, should be more aggressive in regards to his relationship with Putin and Kim Jong-un and should always hold those two accountable as we go forward.
Amplify your voice.
Putin has troops lined up in Ukraine.
Yeah, he's already demonstrated. We watched with President Obama what Russia and Putin did in regards to taking in and invading the Ukraine. This is why they're no friend of
What
ours.
we're talking about today, Putin's got troops lined up.
I use that to recognize the level of the threat that the Russian aggression represents. So, but it happens under both presidential
What
watch.
do you think's going to happen if Putin invades Ukraine?
I would strongly encourage Putin not to do that because that would be a escalation that would, in my opinion, many in Congress, myself included, would join in to say you need to be held accountable, including all options.
Maybe you should strongly say that to Trump, President Trump.
But understand what that means. I mean, this is where foreign relations is something, I don't think I'll be an expert in anything, okay? But, we gotta be careful of escalating this stuff and boxing anybody in. And so I try to keep the doors open as to folks, look, we're gonna hold you accountable, but let's not commit ourselves just because we weren't thinking of all of this
Does
through.
the president's escalating rhetoric concern you?
At times,
Thank you.
yeah, at times, and I've expressed that. And I'm probably not loud enough to everybody in this room, but I have expressed disagreement. And given the personal relationship I have with the president, I tend to express my disagreement and then use what I can in that personal relationship to express my concern more directly. Yeah.
Yeah, so I like what you just said, the concerns with Russia and North Korea and the president's, at least what he says in public is contrary to what I hear you saying is the feeling and should be the approach that there are enemies. Like what you said about the role of Congress and your ability to do something about it. In other words, do the right thing. Why can't that same thing work when it comes to the budget and shutting down the government? And, I worked for the federal government for 38 years, so I've personally been impacted by government shutdowns going back to the 90s. The continuing resolutions, ad nauseum, the inefficiency of planning for the shutdown, planning for the opening up. I mean, if people would tear their hair out if they knew, what was being done.
Can you, just before you,
Yeah.
because you lived it. So continuing resolution, so kind of this point, we take shutdown off the equation, we just keep the
Right.
funding level.
Right.
How damaging continuing resolutions are
Extremely damaging.
and why?
because you're held to last year's spending, and I may have hired 1,000 new employees and have these IT programs, so we're not doing COBOL anymore, or whatever, and those are the first things that get cut.
You can't stop doing
You
it,
can't
but you were doing
You
it.
can't start
You
any
can't
new
You have no
things.
capital
It's
planning,
horrible.
you have no ability
It's
to,
horrible.
right, so
It's
that
horrible.
is another reason why that autopilot.
It's just so horrible, and I was in the
Thank you for,
executive branch.
thank you.
So, and my biggest concern now is what I see is that there seems to be two branches of government, right? There's the judicial and there's the executive, because the legislative branch is frankly impotent. And why is that? Because votes won't be brought to the floor. Do the right thing, vote for what's right, and make it veto-proof. Just do something to show the American people that you're trying everything in your power to do the right thing, instead of letting the tail, which would be President Trump, wag the dog. I mean, the tail is wagging the dog so bad that it's just, I mean, as a longtime federal employee, and thank goodness I'm retired, I didn't have to suffer through this record-breaking shutdown, but it's so sad.
And I hope I've demonstrated, not here, maybe today, but with the Problem Solvers Caucus, with the rule reform, with going over and supporting that rules package with my voting card, and also the discharge petition that I signed on immigration, which is a tool that was in the old toolbox, still in the new toolbox, and we actually reformed that in the rules. That was another successful reform the Problem Solvers Caucus got, to send the message that this has to change. And so now, if members are given the flexibility and the ability to control more of the floor schedule, you know, this happened over years.
Yeah.
And it's gonna take years pulling that power back. And every president, you talk about Reagan, I mean, I talked to folks that were around in Reagan's years. And when he first got there, he's like, yes, I totally respect the separation of powers and Article 1 and Article 2 and, you know, giving it back to Congress and all that. And what happened? After like 3 or 4 years, oh, I love this. This is great. I'll just do it by myself because Congress delegated the authority to me. I'm going in this fight right now. I just had a 45-minute conversation with Peter Navarro on tariffs. They're trying to put a reciprocal trade act bill together that would give more authority to the executive branch when it comes to imposition of tariffs. And they already got, you know, 232 steel and aluminum tariffs. They got national security tariffs that they have authority to do, and they want more authority. And I said, no. I totally disagree with that. We want to get authority back to Congress. If you want to talk about reforming 232, national security plus reciprocal trade act, and then we'll go over again. I'd be open to that, but that would mean more authority back to Congress. So you're absolutely, I mean, we're trying, and we're going to continue to try because the system right now is not working.